The Citroën SAXO, a small car that initially appeared to be a Peugeot in Citroën clothing. After the unique design of the 10 Citroën repeats the copycat approach with the SAXO, clearly based on the 106. Of course, there was this small attempt at differentiated positioning between the two, but let's be honest, as soon as you take a look at the silhouette, you understand right away it's pure and hard cloning. But make no mistake, despite this small flaw to achieve economies of scale, the SAXO has still managed to make its way. Of course, it didn't have the same success as its cousin in Lyon, Normal. It had a shorter career, but still, the SAXO was a rather well-born car, pleasant to drive, dynamic, and even a bit daring in its kind. So sit comfortably, because here is the story of the SAXO, and you will see it's not just a copy. So it all starts with the X, this little shoebox on wheels that in the early 80s seemed almost ready to conquer the galaxy. But time passes, and what was once a star in the market quickly becomes the embarrassing old uncle who is no longer invited to family dinners. This is where Project 8 comes in, the beginning of the gestation of its replacement, the SAXO. We are in 1992, the Peugeot 106 has just arrived, sprightly and full of promises, while the 10, it begins to struggle against this competition. And that's not all. The 205, this indestructible dinosaur, is still there, stubbornly refusing to take its bow. Not to mention the Renault Clio, freshly released in 1990, which plays the daring young ones ready to do anything to crush the competition. Faced with this situation, Citroën finds itself in the position of a chef who must prepare a new dish, but with the leftovers from the fridge. Consequently, the 106 will serve as the foundation for developing the SAXO instead of starting from scratch. Because yes, when you need to go fast and do it cheaply, you recycle. Now, some might cry foul, but let's remember, Peugeot had already used the underpinnings of the 10 to give birth to its own 160. So we can say that Citroën is simply returning the favor. That said, it's not a simple photocopy. It's not like that ridiculous story from the 70s where the LN was an exact copy of the 104, but with a Citroën badge stuck on it. No, here, the engineers decided to roll up their sleeves and do things right. As a result, they take the chassis of the 10, but there's no question of stopping there. They reinforce and improve it, especially in terms of safety. The car receives progressive deformation doors, and to not leave Citroën fans wanting, they add their own little touch, very soft comfort suspensions, to differentiate it even more from the 106. Donato Cocco, this design magician at Citroën, gives us here a car that, let's be frank, will not trigger a storm of applause. It is wise, almost too wise, as if it had been drawn on a rainy Monday morning. Yet it fits perfectly in the lineage of the ZX Xantia, because in these 90s, Citroën decides to put its touch of madness in the closet. No more delirium, now we want something serious, profitable, mainstream. And why? Because we simply need to sell. No more pleasing the purists who love quirky and offbeat cars, no, now we need to appeal to everyone. As a result, in 1999, Citroën blows the counters with nearly 1 million cars sold, 1 million never seen at their place, and in the midst of these number celebrations, the SAXO plays the guest of honor. So yes, it has gained a bit of weight compared to the AX, but the build quality has significantly improved. At the same time, it was hard to do worse than the dashboard of an AX. And even if the SAXO's dashboard may not be an explosion of colors and joy, it finally gives the impression that it won't disintegrate at the first bump. The stakes are clear, the SAXO must attract a whole new clientele, get Citroën out of its cocoon of loyal fans, and go tickle much larger market shares. And for that, we trade extravagance for pragmatism, a strategy that, it must be acknowledged, has borne fruit. In March 1996, Geneva Motor Show, Citroën unveils the SAXO. It arrives with 10 additional centimeters of wheelbase compared to the X, which gives it a much more respectable habitability, and it is even a bit longer than the 106. In terms of engine, we start with the 1.04 cylinder, straight out of the latest AX, which develops an impressive 50 horsepower, enough to take you from one red light to another. But hey, at 58,900 francs for the 3-door version, we're not going to complain too much. And for those who like a bit more spice, there was the 1.1 with 60 horses, the 1.4 with 75 horses, and the 1.6 with 8 valves with 90 horses, a kind of mid-range. But the star of the show, of course, was the VTS, with its 1.6 16 valves and its 120 horses. And finally, for diesel lovers and penny pinchers, there was a diesel, the 1.5500 with 58 horses. Not enough to burn rubber, but enough to go to work or plow a field gently. At Citroën, they like Finnish names as others like cheeses, varied and a bit mysterious. Thus, the SAXO offers a range that starts with the 10 Finnish for those who just want a car. Then the 10S10, which adds a bit of comfort and ends beautifully with the VS. 10 almost luxurious, especially if one opts for the exclusive that arrives a year later with Alcantara seats so cozy that one would almost hesitate to get out of them. For the 3-door versions, Citroën decided to have some fun. 3 specific finishes arrive on the scene. The VTL with its 90 horsepower engine but equipment as simplified as a sandwich on a train. The VTR, which has the same engine but dresses like an athlete with widened wings and a sporty look. And finally the VTS, a real little fury, equipped with the engine of the Cent 6S16. These 3-door versions arrive a few months after the launch of the SAXO and offer a reinforced chassis for better road holding. The VTS debuts with a pure hardcore version, a 1.69 quarts 16-valve engine producing 120 horsepower, a lightweight 2,160 pounds body, and an aggressive body kit. Unfortunately, the VTS lost some of its exclusivity when Citroën decided to stick other engines in it in 1998, a modest 1.4-litre of 75 horsepower and a 1.6-litre 8-valve of 90 horsepower. In 1997, the Chevron brand decided to give the SAXO a little facelift, or rather a cosmetic update with a grille that looks like that of the brand new Zara and the facelifted Xantia, just to say that it's part of the family. But don't get too excited, it's still a SAXO. And as Citroën likes to appeal to a youth in search of adrenaline, or something that resembles it, new sporty versions make their appearance, the VTS 1.4 and Big. These 2 models proudly output 75 horsepower, but still inherit the same muscular bodywork as the VTS 8 and 16 valves, because you can always appear fast even when you're not. Sadly, the VTR version vanishes then. And then there is the classic Bic, for those who prefer the discreet comfort of a SAXO without the bodywork frills. First produced in a limited series of 6,000 copies, it ends up joining the regular range, proving that Citroën knows how to recycle its ideas like no one else. As for the exclusive version, it remains true to its name, but loses its fake woodwork in real plastic. These little details that made all the magic of the kitsch interiors of the 90s. But here's the thing. The Peugeot 206 and the Renault Clio 2 hit the market in 1999, and it's a bit like the SAXO aged overnight. Citroën responds with almond-shaped lights. Yes, those famous lights that would end up defining the brand's look in the early 2000s. The SAXO, until then as discreet as an open-space office worker, finally begins to show a bit of personality. And that makes the sales explode, reaching almost 300,000 units. The only mechanical novelty is the upgrade to 100 horsepower for the 1.69 quart 8-valve engine. A major evolution, maybe not, but at least it's enough to keep it competitive against its rivals. For the rest, Citroën is content to maintain tight prices, especially since the AX has bowed out. But all good things come to an end. The SAXO is starting to feel the hot breath of the 100-103, a more modern and cuter descendant. In 2002, the newcomer steals the show and the SAXO gently ends its career, brightened by a few special series. Then a year later, it will definitely leave the catalogue. Let's talk for a moment about the special series, these desperate attempts by manufacturers to make us believe that their everyday car has something special, and the Citroën SAXO was no exception to the rule. Take, for example, the New Morning series. The first version appeared in July 1998, was based on the VTS and dressed in an absolutely beautiful Alcantara interior. Pretty classy, right? Except we never knew how many of these beauties were made. The second series, launched in March 2001, is more precise. Only 1,000 copies, a 3-door version with the look and the VTS body kit, available with 3 engines, a 1.450, a 1.658 valves, and 50 a 1.658 valves, and a 1.6 liters, 8 valves, and a 1.6 liters, liters, 16 valves. And beware, she was rather elegant with her 2 shades of grey, her Toulouse aluminum rims on the 16 valves or her flower hubcaps. She had enough to turn heads. Inside, there was FK upholstery in grey, black and red, perfectly matched to the two-tone bodywork. Today, this special series is extremely rare. And then, because Citroën loves to surprise, the electric Saxo takes the stage. Produced by Oliès from 1996, this marvel of technology embarked a 20 kW engine or 27 horsepower nickel-cadmium batteries offering a range of 90 kilometers, finally, according to the manufacturer, and a maximum speed of 100 kilometers per hour. For heating, don't count on a heat pump, there was a Webasto, a system that runs on gasoline powered by a 12-liter tank. Obviously, the price was astronomical and the sales were, like the car, too low. Only 2,242 units produced between 1996 and 2003, a drop in the ocean of the 1,764,555 Saxo manufactured in total. So, what to remember from the Saxo? Well, it wasn't a revolution, but it managed to conquer its time, fill the void left by the 10, and offer young drivers something to dream about, even if their dream was modest. A simple car, sometimes brilliant but never pretentious. And that's really its strength. And you? Have you ever had a story with a Saxo? Tell me about it in the comments. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to find new videos every week.